How are Agilists faring in the pandemic? How are we finding meaning and purpose in these troubled times? How can we connect, inspire, and support each other? We will explore answers to these questions and more. This is Agile Caravanserai. I'm Sanjeev Augustine. James Grenning is an Agile Manifesto author and a true software development guru. His contributions in the field of embedded software development really stand out. They're really wide-ranging, and James has designed complex embedded applications ranging from weather radar displays to airport control tower displays to automated testing systems. Now, James also serves our country by working behind the scenes on many top secret. I first met James 2 decades ago at one of the early XP Universe conferences, and he's inspired me with his no-nonsense approach to practical software development since then. But James's expertise ranges outside of agile engineering or core software development and extends to team collaboration processes. Few will know that James is the person who invented the very popular agile technique called planning poker. When a planning meeting had stalled some years ago, James asked for all of the team members to write their estimates down secretly on cards and then hold them up simultaneously. And out of that moment, serendipitously was born a technique that helps agile teams worldwide optimize and get better, accurate, and fun, collaborative. Today, James continues to assist agile teams worldwide through his company, Wingman Software. From coaching teams on how to use agile methods for embedded software development to assisting their management with planning and estimation, James continues to pioneer better ways to develop software. James Grenning. Good afternoon, James. It's great to see you once again, and welcome to this Agile Caravanserai series of interviews. It's my pleasure and privilege to have you on. I've known you for a long time. You're one of the signatories of the Agile Manifesto. So just want to kick off by asking, we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of the signing of the Agile Manifesto, and just wanted to sort of open it up to you and see what reflections you have over the last 20 years of the Agile movement.
Well, thanks, Sanjeev. Yeah, it's really nice to see you again. I mean, too bad it's not in person somewhere, but this works pretty good. So reflecting back, that was almost 20 years ago. One of the things I was hoping for would to be able to get back out to Snowbird for an anniversary or something to go skiing, because part of the reason I was there is Bob asked me if I wanted to go to Snowbird to a meeting. It's like, sure, to Snowbird, yes, I can make it. And then it turned out to be the Agile Manifesto meeting. All the guys I was learning from at the time, well, the extreme programming contingent, right? So if I think back to that time, I was there with Kent and Ward and Ron and Bob Martin and Martin Fowler as part of the people doing extreme programming. And so that was very, very interesting. Now, over the years, it's been interesting to think of how that meeting, which I'm pretty sure no one thought it was going to, we didn't have any expectations that it was going to be something important. It was just some guys getting together to find out how we can make things better, given that the processes were getting heavier at the time, right? And so now Agile's done, a great job. I think the first 10 years were really interesting to me on how there was a lot on improvement and people were getting better at things. I'm kind of a little worried about the second 10 years about doing Agile and not really living the values. Living the values sounds weird. I'm an engineer. I got into it because extreme programming was a better way to engineer. Mm-hmm. And then there's all this people stuff. But so if I think back over these decades, there's a lot of people going through the motions, but I don't think the continuous improvement that really is at the core of it is happening as much as I would like to see. That's one of my concerns. But very happy that it's
20 years
done what it did.
Yeah. So thank you for your contribution, especially in that special niche that you have. I know I've known you for a long time, and I know you do a lot of work with embedded software, in addition to just the standard XP stuff, if there's any standard XP stuff. So I wanted to pivot a little bit. Obviously, it's been a hard time for everyone around the world. But personally, how are you doing in this pandemic craziness?
Well, my United Miles account is It's staying level. I'm not adding to it or subtracting from it. I used to travel a lot. So it certainly hurt that part of my business. Do I mind being at home as much? Not as much, but there's less you can do when you're not out there visiting teams. About 5 or 6 years ago, as a way to try to spend less time on the road, I transformed one of my training classes into something that could be given live over the web. And I started off with WebEx and transitioned to Zoom. And I have ways for people to do programming exercises using a thing called Cyber Dojo that allows me to monitor their work. I started doing that about 5 or 6 years ago. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I had a couple scheduled. And then when people got locked down, they started to attend that class, maybe a little bit more than they did. So I did quite a few of them in the first few months, which was nice. Keep our local business afloat. And it's slowed down a bit since then, but I've been working to automate my training course as well. And I'm trying to create a similar experience to if I was there, which is kind of a hard thing to do because people can't ask me questions and I kind of rely on what they need, based on what I might say. But I've been working over the last year to figure out the technology and such to be able to have a good interactive session, even though I'm not there, that could be done self-paced. And I can get to more of the world that way. So right now I've had a pretty wide spread. Last week I had a group of people, a couple from India. That's about as many time zones away that I've gone live. It's inconvenient for them in the evening.
2.5 hours, yeah.
It's not too bad for me because I just got to get up early, which I kind of get up semi-early anyway. And then people from India all the way to Texas, right? So I had 10 people and spread across half the globe, which is kind of an interesting thing to do. But
and your family all staying safe and healthy because
yes, I've had we had our daughter had her third boy during this, so she most of her pregnancy was during the COVID thing, and everybody stayed healthy. We've known a couple people that have gotten sick, but they weren't of high risk group, so they got better. They're like, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal, but I know it's serious for some.
Yeah.
So we're just we're in Florida, and it was really a good place to be during the pandemic because we invented the driveway party down here, where you'd get a couple, bring your lawn chairs, get 6 feet apart, and have cocktail hour out in the driveway. And so
socially distanced.
We managed to have a fairly good time rather than if we were in Chicago at our northern home, we would have been stuck in our house by ourselves. That wouldn't have been as much fun. I could see going nuts with that one. It's like.
So sort of looking forward, thanks for sharing all that cool information there. And looking forward from now maybe to the next 20 years of Agile, and especially during this difficult time, uncertain time with the pandemic, with many people under lockdown and Europe shutting down again, and we're continuing to struggle with that here in the US. What advice or inspiration would you have for Agilists around the world? And you certainly have a fan following across the world, I know for sure.
Yeah. Well, one surprising thing is that the name of Agile hasn't really changed. If you took the quality movement and you looked at it through decades, every decade the name changed. Right? Total Quality Management in the 90s, it became Six Sigma. Lean Six Sigma keeps changing, getting rebranded. I guess we have our sub-brands going on. But at any rate, I'm off topic a little bit. In the future, so what do people, are you learning? Are you gaining some skill? Are you actually solving problems? This is one of the things that kind of bothers me, which I mentioned a little bit before, is that many people are going through the motions. I know Scrum has been extremely popular, and one of the steps of Scrum is retrospective. You know what? If you teach people how to manage incrementally, and you haven't helped the engineers learn incremental engineering, that's going to be painful. That's a recipe for pain. That's one of the things I like to say is if you match incremental management without incremental engineering, it's going to be painful. And in reading blogs and such around the world, I see that there's a lot of this happening. So the business people and the people that are doing Scrum need to involve development and get them to understand that there are incremental engineering ways of working. Now, I of course teach people that, But I'm very aware of, if you don't have that, it's going to be painful.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going back in time again. When we started teaching people extreme programming, we started, let's learn the planning, then let's make stories, then let's do the engineering. And we found everybody was confused. We reversed the system. Let's learn how to do test-driven development, incremental engineering. Mm-hmm. And then when we got to the planning stuff, it was like, oh yeah, that planning is easy. What would you like next? Reverse that, and it's painful. So I would think going forward, we need to understand that that's a problem. If people are experiencing that problem, they might look for a solution to that problem. It's about problem solving.
Yeah. So almost rather than leading with the process, lead with the problem and then fit the process to the problem, right? To solve the problem. Is what I'm hearing you say is flip that, just like you flipped development and testing and created test-driven development or accelerated test-driven development. Is that correct?
Yeah. People often don't even realize that there would be a potential solution. When I watched Kent Beck demonstrate test-driven development 20 plus years ago, it shocked me, really, because as an embedded systems developer, 20 years prior to seeing extreme programming, what we did was wait till we had hardware to run our code.
Right.
And here's Kent, not waiting. He has got a test harness. He's got an idea. He gets it working in the code. And now here's this thing, it works.
And then
later we could marry it with the hardware. And it's like, oh, we should be doing that in embedded systems. And I started doing that the next Monday. And that's led me to where I am today. That was a problem. I never even realized there was a problem there. It was the status quo, is you wrote code and you debugged it. No, there's another way, right? And so people have to be open to identifying their problems. Often we can't see them. And so we want to look for our problems and try to solve them.
Thank you, James. I think that's a great way to close out this interview, to always look for the other way, look for the problems and look for ways to solve them. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for that inspirational message that's going to go out to all of your fans around the world.
Thanks, Sanjeev. I appreciate getting to see you again. Thanks a lot for talking to me today.
Very welcome. It's always a pleasure.